I was just looking at a map the other day, sort of tracing where friends of mine have moved in the last, 3 years?
Uh-huh.
And it really hit me. The whole idea of relocation has completely flipped.
Oh,
It
completely.
used to be this massive, scary thing. You moved because of a crisis or, a command.
Right. You lost your job, or your boss comes in and says, good news, you're off to the Omaha brain.
Exactly. It was mandatory. It was stressful. It felt like an
It was
upheaval.
a rupture, really. You were uprooting your entire life because, well, you didn't have much of a choice. It was always a reaction.
A reaction, yes. But now I look at this map and I see people in Lisbon and Chiang Mai and Medellin, Da Nang, and I mean, none of them were fired.
Hmm.
None were transferred. They just went. It feels like we've gone from, I don't know, migration by necessity
Hmm.
to migration by curation.
That's a great way to put it.
But here's the question I keep asking myself.
Yeah.
Is this actually sustainable? Or is everyone just on a really, really long, financially irresponsible vacation?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's exactly what we're digging into today. We're looking at this explosion of the lifestyle migrant and asking why people are moving cities more often than ever.
And to keep us grounded, make sure we're not just, going off Instagram vibes,
Mhm.
we're doing a deep dive into data and articles from moveandstay.com.
Which is, I think, really crucial context here. Because Move and Stay isn't a travel blog. They've been a major player in this space for over 25 years.
A long time.
A very long time. They specialize in connecting business travelers, professionals, whole corporate teams with extended stay solutions. So service departments, offices, that sort of thing.
Right, and their big focus is the Asia-Pacific region, which is, you could argue, the real epicenter of this whole shift right now.
For sure.
So the insights we're looking at, they aren't about backpackers. We're looking at what professionals are doing.
Exactly. We're tracking people moving with laptops, with careers, and, often with families in tow.
Okay, so let's start with the big why. Because packing up your entire life is a hassle. I mean, even if you want to do it, the logistics alone are a nightmare. What's the force that's strong enough to make millions of people deal with customs forms voluntarily?
The primary driver is undeniably economic. We're seeing this massive divergence between the cost of living and the quality of life you get for it in the major global capitals. The sources call it the economic push.
We all feel it, right? Rent is high. But give me the reality check. How different is it really from, say, 10 years ago?
Oh, it is statistically a different world. If you look at the data for Tier 1 capitals, so think London, New York, Singapore, Sydney, median rents haven't just ticked up, they've exploded.
Okay.
We're talking a 35% increase in median rent over the last 5 years alone in those hubs, and home prices, they're up nearly 50%.
50%. So if you were saving for a down payment in, say, 2019, the goalposts have basically moved to a different stadium.
Precisely. And that creates this feeling of just treadmilling. You might be earning a good salary, a six-figure salary even, but your discretionary income is almost zero.
Because everything costs a fortune.
The cost of admission to the city, groceries, gas, a coffee, it just consumes everything. You're living paycheck to paycheck on a high salary.
Which brings us to this idea I see everywhere, wage arbitrage. Sounds like a cheat code for life.
Mhm.
You earn in dollars or euros, but you spend in, I don't know, baht or pesos.
It is probably the most powerful financial lever an individual can pull today. It's like an instant raise without ever having to ask your boss for a penny.
It sounds too good to be true.
Well, and I do need to stress this. The sources are clear that it is not without risk. It is not a free lunch.
Okay, so play the skeptic for me. What's the catch? Because if I move to Bangkok and keep my U.S. salary, I feel like I'd be living like a king. Where does that go wrong?
It can go wrong in what's called the currency trap. If your income is in USD but your life is in a local economy, you're totally at the mercy of exchange rates. If the local currency suddenly strengthens against the dollar, your raise just evaporates. Or maybe inflation in that new city spikes, which can happen when a lot of expats move in and your purchasing power just drops.
So you have to be smart about it. You can't just assume the math is always going to work out.
Correct. The smart ones, the professional settlers that a company like Move and Stay tracks, they aren't just spending everything. They're using that surplus to save, to invest in stable assets. They're building a safety net they couldn't dream of building back in New York.
That distinction you just made, professional settler versus backpacker,
Yeah.
that feels really important here.
It's huge.
Because 10 years ago, if you told me you were working remotely from Vietnam, I would have assumed you were like 22, teaching English part-time and living in a hostel.
That was definitely digital nomad phase one. What we're seeing now is the corporate migration. It's software engineers, consultants, even entire project teams relocating. And the thing that's enabling it is this: visa revolution.
I was so surprised by this. It used to feel like countries made it as hard as possible to get in. Now it feels like they're rolling out the welcome mat.
It's a global war for talent and for tax revenue. I mean, the source material lists a whole raft of countries: Portugal, Spain, Costa Rica, Estonia, Malaysia, all launching specific visas to attract these high-earning remote workers.
Because they realize these people aren't taking local jobs.
Exactly. They're bringing in foreign capital and spending it locally. It's a huge win for those economies.
But let's talk about where they're actually going, because you said it's not just hopping from London to Tokyo. They're heading to these secondary cities.
This is what's called a destination shift, and it's driven by a desire for something the data calls everyday livability.
Everyday livability. I mean, that sounds nice, but isn't that just a euphemism for boring? People move to London for the buzz, the culture. If I move to a smaller city, am I giving all that up?
Not anymore. And that's where the internet has just leveled the playing field. You can get high-speed fiber internet in Chiang Mai or Da Nang. You have access to all the same global media.
Okay.
But what you gain is friction-free living. In a major capital, your commute might be 90 minutes. In a secondary city, you walk to the co-working space in 15.
So it's about reclaiming time.
It's about the ratio of hassle to joy. This sources point out that in places like Move On Stay's key markets, say Bangkok or Kuala Lumpur, the infrastructure for living is incredibly high quality, but the stress level is just so much lower than a place like Hong Kong or Singapore.
Okay, so we've got the money part, which is wage arbitrage,
Yeah.
and the motivation, which is livability.
Yeah.
But I really want to drill down into the how.
So logistics.
Yeah, because this is where the fantasy usually just hits a brick wall. I've had friends try this. They land in a new country, they're all excited, and then they spend the first month totally stressed out just trying to find a place to sleep.
This is the housing gap. And frankly, it is the single biggest hurdle for anyone trying to do this professionally.
Why is it so hard, though? I mean, Airbnb exists, hotels exist. Why is this still such a problem?
Because for a professional, neither of those are real long-term solutions. A hotel room is too small, there's no kitchen. You can't live like that for 3 months.
You'd go crazy.
And Airbnb has become incredibly expensive and, the quality is all over the place. But the real problem is the traditional lease.
Oh, right. Trying to walk into a real estate office in Tokyo or Seoul and saying, "Hi, I'm a foreigner. I have zero credit history here, no local bank account yet, but can I please rent that apartment?"
It's a bureaucratic deadlock. In many Asian markets, landlords demand a 12 or even a 24-month lease. They want a local guarantor. They want a deposit that's like 3 or 4 months' rent.
And you can't pay the rent without a bank account, but you can't get a bank account without an address.
It is the classic chicken and egg nightmare. You're completely trapped.
So what's the solution?
Well, this is precisely the friction point that a platform like MoveAndStay.com has built their entire business around for 25 years. Their data shows this massive surge in demand for serviced apartments to act as the bridge.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate again. Service department. That sounds expensive. It sounds like something a CEO on a business trip stays in. Is this actually viable for a normal professional?
It's a question of value versus cost. Yes, the monthly rate on paper is higher than a bare, unfurnished local apartment. But you have to look at the total cost of landing.
The what?
The total cost of landing. A serviced apartment is fully furnished down to the forks and the bed sheets. It includes all your utilities, no setting up Wi-Fi or electricity. It has cleaning, a front desk.
So you're not spending your second day in a new country trying to buy a mattress.
Exactly. And you're not paying a huge broker's fee or putting down a massive deposit you might never see again. For a professional doing a trial living stint of, say, 3 to 6 months, it's actually the most economical and efficient choice. You land, you unpack, and you start working.
You just mentioned trial living. That's a fascinating concept the source has brought up. It's this idea of like dating a city before you marry it.
That's it exactly. The old model was migration is permanent. You sell your house, you move. That's it.
Right. High stakes.
Very high stakes. The new model is migration is an experiment. You go to a city for a season, maybe 90 days. If the vibe is wrong or the humidity is a killer or the schools aren't what you need, you just move on.
But to do that, you absolutely need flexibility. You can't be locked into a 2-year lease.
which is why the service department sector is just booming in the Asia Pacific. It aligns perfectly with that trial living timeline. It lets
Okay.
people test the waters without drowning in paperwork.
Muzan Stay also mentioned something about investment migration, things like golden visas. Is this just for the super rich, or are regular professionals looking at this?
It's becoming surprisingly middle class. We aren't just talking about billionaires buying passports anymore. We're talking about programs in places like Thailand or Malaysia where for a deposit, sometimes as low as $20,000 or $50,000, you can secure a long-term renewable visa.
So you're basically just parking some of your savings in the country in exchange for the right to live there.
Yes. You're treating residency as an asset class. It's
Yeah.
like diversifying your home portfolio.
I want to zoom out a little. We've talked about the logistics for the person who moves, but what happens to the place? I mean, if you have millions of people moving to these secondary cities, bringing their higher salaries and their MacBooks, surely that changes the city itself.
Oh, it changes it profoundly. And this is where the analysis gets really interesting. We're seeing brain gain in regions that used to suffer from brain drain.
Right. Usually, the smartest kid from the small town moves to the big city to make it.
And now the big city professional is moving back to the small town or to a smaller city, and they bring demands with them. They want reliable electricity. They want fast internet. They want international standard healthcare.
And good coffee.
And crucially, good coffee, yes. And this demand drives infrastructure investment. The sources note that as these lifestyle hubs develop, the local economy diversifies. It's not just about tourism anymore. It becomes a knowledge economy.
But isn't there a downside? I mean, we have to talk about the impact on locals. If I move to some small coastal town with my big U.S. salary, aren't I just driving up the rent for the people who actually grew up there?
That is the central tension. The data is very clear that an influx of higher-earning expats raises local real estate prices. That's undeniable.
Okay.
However, the counter-argument presented is that this also creates a whole new service economy and brings foreign investment into towns that might have been stagnating before.
So it's a double-edged sword. You get better roads and maybe a better hospital, but your rent might go up.
Exactly. And the cities that will truly win in this new world are the ones that manage that balance carefully. The winners won't be the cities with the flashiest skyscrapers. They'll be the ones that offer the best everyday livability for everyone, locals and newcomers.
It really feels like we're heading towards a world where home isn't a fixed point on a map anymore. It's more like a service you subscribe to.
That is a brilliant way to put it. We're moving from an ownership of place to an access to place. And platforms like Move and Stay are essentially the interface for that access. They remove the friction of the physical world so you can focus on the experience.
So if we look, say, 10 years down the road, does the idea of an expat even exist? Or is everyone just mobile?
I think the distinction will completely blur. We'll stop asking where are you from, and we'll start asking where are you based right now. The whole assumption of permanence is fading away.
Which is, I mean, it's liberating, but it's also a little terrifying, honestly.
Yeah.
It puts a lot of pressure on you to constantly curate your own life. You can't just settle.
It requires intention. You have to actively choose your life rather than just letting it happen to you.
Well, that is a heavy thought to leave everyone with. I want you, the listener, to just do a quick thought experiment. If you didn't have to be in your current city for work, if your income was totally detached from your location, where would you wake up tomorrow? And what's really stopping you from doing it?
And if you do decide to go, maybe check the visa requirements first.
And maybe figure out where you're going to sleep before you actually get on the plane.
Yeah.
Huge thank you to the insights from moveandstay.com for helping us navigate all this. It's a complex world out there.
But at least we know we don't have to sleep on a park bench while we figure it out.
Absolutely. Safe travels, everyone.
Catch you on the next deep dive.